Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities and ETFs that I follow. If you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That's where I go, again, into individual companies. I just released a midweek update before taping this video, so look for it on the website. We do have a discount going on called LEAP because it is leap year, LEAP in the discount code. You get a big discount if you do the yearly membership, a smaller discount if you just want to try it out on the monthly membership. And you can always switch to a yearly later if you'd like. So let's dive in. I'll give you my opinions on the markets here, and let's see what happened today and what the trends are telling us here in the short term. So DXY dollar, to me, this is just a bloody nose, and it's a continuation move to the upside still. We're getting this stair-stepping pattern where we consolidate sideways, and that generally leads to the stair step that I see moving on higher. So that still looks good to move on up. This will be a headwind for gold and precious metals. It'll be a tailwind, or not so much as a headwind or a tailwind for oil and potentially natural gas, but natural gas is definitely selling off with some momentum. It will bottom at some point, and we'll head back up probably over the next few months. Nat gas, that is. Yields continuing to move on up. We're down today, but again, that's a bloody nose continuation pattern to the upside as far as I can see. The 10 years got the same little down candlestick next to the big tall guy. I call it the bloody nose. We've got support underneath us. That's what that little line is there. And I think we'll work our way on up over time. And the 30 years got the same setup. Bloody nose, support underneath us, and I think it'll work its way on up. Very similar to what we're doing here. We're just stair stepping up. And that will have large ramifications for the pricing of assets depending on how fast and how far these yields move to the upside. TYX TNX ratio still it is inverting with some speed. We uninverted today, but again, I think that's just an inverted bloody nose, and I think we could see further downside in the short term with these large selling pressure candlesticks. And really what this is I think the market is positioning for no rate cuts potentially, or very little rate cuts, or holding the rates steady by Powell. I think the market is basically positioning for that type of move. TLT bond prices, it's holding today, but again, the momentum's to the downside, and we'll see if that momentum continues tomorrow. The 2 and 10, a little bit of yield curve uninversion, but it's nothing really huge at this moment. We are still inverted and holding on at this moment. Gold, feeling, we got a little bit of tailwinds today because we did have slightly lower dollar, slightly lower yields, and the yield curve uninverting to some degree, and gold still couldn't really put together a good day today. Makes me think that we could see further downside in gold in the short term if those yields trend in the same direction. Silver up a little bit. We're right on support, and we'll see if yields move on up, pushing silver down, or if silver can hold here. Platinum, a little bit better day today, up almost 2%, and it's holding at support. And then palladium ripping today, up $76. This generally is short covering. So it looks like we got a little bit of short covering here and a little bit of short covering here. That's what I see at the bottom of markets when things start to turn. You get these short covering big green candlesticks. I call it the green army is showing up. The green army is short covering, and that's what we're seeing in this and the small selling pressure back into another big day today. So I think that this is in the bottoming process, and I do have potential investments directly related to platinum group metals in this general location. XAU to gold ratio, it's up a little bit today, but again, is that a bloody nose where we could see potentially further downside? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but we got to get some yield control, so to speak. Like it's very volatile, and it still looks like it could go higher, and that's going to be rough in terms of the conditions that are set for a lot of these gold and silver mining companies and a lot of the other assets. We're going to see a lot of volatility. We haven't broken out of anything yet, and we still have some good downside momentum. I would wait and see what occurs over the next few days, weeks. Are we going to get a bounce where we kind of move sideways, or is this thing going to jettison to the downside? We're going to wait and find out. CRB index down a little bit today. I know oil was down some. And again, I still think this looks fine. And we're still above the downtrend line. This is the downtrend line here and the uptrend line. CRB to S&P 500, we were down today. But S&P had tailwinds from lower yields, on inversion of the yield curve, a little bit lower dollar. And those were headwinds for oil. If the interest rates are going to continue to head higher, I'm looking for oil to try to break out here. We're up against resistance, and I'll show you what those chart patterns look like. And that's where I think rates and oil will go up together if I'm reading these charts right. And gold, S&P could get a little bit of resistance here. GDX was slightly, sideways today, but again, I need to be a believer here if this is going to hold. I got to see the whole, having it hold here. GDXJ and also SILJ. And generally, when you get these weak bounces next to large candlesticks like that, the big down candlesticks, watch out for further downside. That is a possibility. And if rates move on up, that's where your further downside is going to be driven from. Crude oil was down today, 1.6. We're right at that long-term resistance line going across. We used it as support. It was all sorts of whatever in there. Again, here, more through here and through here. So it is a strong resistance line. We are hitting up against it right now. My guess is that we'll punch through this. I don't know what it will look like in the short term. I don't know if we loop back around here, if we go sideways, or if we just punch right through it, because yields do look like they want to go higher. And money likes to rotate into crude oil when that's going on up. I can say that the lows are coming on up, and maybe we put a low at 75. Maybe it comes back like this. Or maybe it just breaks right on through. Again, I don't know what the intermediate or nearer term future looks like, but we're up against resistance. We pulled on back a little bit, and we'll see what occurs over the next week or two. TTF gas down a little bit. We're losing a little bit of support, probably from Henry Hub, but a little bit of selling pressure, momentum still to the downside. We don't have a clear bottom yet on this. We had a little bit of a break to the upside, bounce off support, but it's just kind of hanging out and drifting a little bit lower. Nat gas also continuing to sell off. We're down to 1.6 to the downside. Let it tire itself out here, guys. This is a capitulation move. I bet you some people are getting squeezed or something like that, and they need to sell something on the lines of that. And maybe we come back all the way even down to, dare I say it, $1 or so, potentially. But it's the freight train's in motion, and we've been pulling on back. Now, just because natural gas has been pulling back, it doesn't mean it's weighing on the equities as much, because the equities aren't selling off as much. So when we look at XOP, yeah, you know me, we've been moving sideways with XOP, even though we had down crude oil, down natural gas today. I think people are positioning in XOP, and that's why it's been resilient. Now, it won't be resilient if you continue to see oil and nat gas sell off. But if we get increasing interest rates and oil turns back around, I do think that this is probably going to work its way on up in an inverted head and shoulders. And I do think that we could see a big move to the upside eventually when we break through all of this stuff and the neckline that's up there. OIH also holding on, which makes me think that we probably haven't drilled enough wells. And the situation is only going to worsen if nat gas stays as low as it is. And I think that we could potentially, hopefully, turn around here and work our way on up. But again, let's monitor it. Let's see if interest rates go up and if oil moves on up. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, It's holding on. The only thing I don't like is I don't like seeing this big the red candlestick there. And this is generally a continuation pattern to the downside. I don't see a reversal candlestick yet. That doesn't mean it can't come. It's if the trend's in motion, it stays in motion until something acts upon it. I need to see the force reverse this trend of velocity slash momentum for me to turn bullish in the short term. So it's still to the downside until I see that reversal. URA, it's up a little bit, but again, guys, the momentum's to the downside. There could be further downside here. Uranium, it's the same thing, but at least we've got support underneath us. There's that support underneath us. It's basically sitting on top of a breakout, which is always a good thing. And we've got some momentum coming into that support. We got to see it hold. And then URNJ is in the same situation. We're sitting on top of a lot of support. We've got some downside momentum still, and we got to work that thing around and come back on up if it's going to move on up. TAN up 4.8%, likes the lower yields, does not like the higher yields. If I think yields could potentially go up, what do I think TAN's going to do? Potentially go down if yields move on up. If yields were to pull on back, I think this will continue higher. HG, which is copper. Copper looks good to try to put in a bottom. We've got a reversal candlestick here, not much selling pressure added to it. I think we could potentially go up eventually. And this is still in this pattern squeezing up in here. So that looks pretty good. COPX, that's also looks like there's positioning in the copper miners. So we'll see if this can hold and work its way on up for copper miners. Lithium moving on up today, but again, highly dependent on yields. Yields move on up, I think lithium's going to be under pressure. If yields pull back, it'll be good. Same with REMX. Yields moving up is that big down day. Yields moving back down is that. Where are yields going to go? Because that's going to determine the pricing of a lot of these assets. SPX, it's holding on at the moment. Yields moving up, and the speed of those yields could start to derail this thing. Same with the NASDAQ. It's moving on up. And what I see here, I'm going to just draw this in real crude, guys. I see a squeezing of some sort here, which makes me think that yields could continue higher, which falls in line with this index potentially squeezing on up. And the S&P's got the same thing. And just throw this line almost on top of it. Really what I see is a squeezing here, potentially of this. KRE, again, it likes the lower yields, but is this going to maintain the lower yields? Increasing yields will probably bring this thing and keep it a little bit low. Emerging markets like lower yields, lower dollar. XHB like the lower yields, lower dollar. And that's been moving up. This may move up even with yields moving up. Why do I say that? It's just a flat out supply-demand shortage. Supply shortage for the demand. Boo also like the yields coming back down, but I do think we could still hit 69 and $69 a share here, right at support. Iron ore moving sideways today. Not a ton of demand. We'll see. Is this a flag pattern that the stair-stepping pattern lower? Potentially, we'll see. And again, that's more evidence of increasing interest rates potentially. Aluminum moving on up. Again, weaker yields. Aluminum does exactly what yields do. Yields go down, aluminum goes up. Yields go up, aluminum goes down. It's almost direct correlation there. Baltic Dry Index, it's working its way on up. I think this will continue higher for BDI. Newcastle Coal, it's getting weighed down by natural gas. Natural gas is an alternative. There's a lot of coal to gas switching. I'm much more bullish on gas usage in the future, but coal's still hanging in there. And I do think this is basing out for a potential move higher whenever natural gas decides to stop getting beat down. BTC ripping to the upside. This looks absolutely fantastic. Huge move and quite obvious. And Ethereum continues to move higher with very strong closings. No reversal candlesticks to be seen, and that looks like it could continue higher in both of those. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you'd like. And that's what my opinions are at this time. 7 a.m. Uh, 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on Saturday is our question and answer session. We will do a little bit of training before it. I'm going to dive into basically how a commodity, a lot of these commodity companies, the linkage between the commodity price and you as a shareholder. What are we looking for? What's low risk? What's high probability bet? What links you to the commodity price? What is a high cost commodity producer? Why do they make more money than a low cost commodity producer? I can give you some examples too of basically your balance sheet as a person and tie that to a company, so you guys can better understand and make more well-educated decisions on the companies that you're choosing. Why do I go and why do I prefer certain companies? Why do I think there's a higher probability bet in certain companies versus others? We'll go over all that. And the whole purpose of the website is to educate you guys and give you the confidence and conviction to go long in some of these, even when everything looks like crap. When you buy these things when things look bad, you sell them when things look very good. It's almost opposite of what you would think, because the balance sheet's going to it's going to look very good at a top. It's going to look very crappy at a bottom. What we want to assess is what is the earnings potential of this company. That's what we're going to dive into. Be a lot of fun. Well, maybe if you guys are into this stuff, which I am, and hopefully you walk away with, okay, that makes sense. I also have a natural gas presentation, um, looking at things from a supply demand perspective and looking out in the future of what the plans are of what these big guys think they're going to try to put into place here. Also, electricity demand from artificial intelligence and all these other things. So I want to tie this all together. It's going to take some hours of training, guys, to get through all of this. I'm going to continue to put it together and share it with everyone who's a member, and then we can look at particular companies too. Um, this is where money's made. Money is made when you get these large imbalances and swings to one side, which will swing to the other side. That is where the opportunities are. And it's when people get afraid. When you get negative sentiment or selling, when their fear kicks up, that's the opportunity. So we'll do that this weekend. We'll see you guys there who are members. And that's all I've got for today. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.